we started?
No, I was just curious.
Okay.
So, there is no script, we're off piste.
You don't need to write it down because it's what's in your heart.
So I want to touch quite heavily on the mental health side of things.
I won't hold back on anything.
The podcast itself is aimed around sort of like entrepreneurship with adversity and diversity.
To be doing Wembley is like one of those moments, pinching yourself like doing Wembley.
If you're talking about something that's passionate to you, it tends to flow well. That's what I've always found.
I was aware that he had mental health issues,
Okay.
but he wasn't.
A lot of people, sadly, probably won't watch front to back. They'll take the clips, they'll take the reels,
Yeah.
and they'll probably never invest the time. So, Ciro, thanks for coming on the Lodestar podcast.
Oh, nice to be here finally.
Yes, it's been a minute to get it organised, hasn't it? But hey, look, I understand what the delay was now. Look at this amazing artwork on the wall.
It took me hours.
That is fantastic. I won't let you take the glory for it. I'm sure somebody else has done that.
Now, Neil's my friend and graffiti artist, and he's a proper graffiti artist. He took a day on this wall, he took a day on that wall.
I'd have said longer.
It was all to celebrate my V12 Lambo, which was a dream moment for me to get that V12 doors up Lambo, the Viola Ophelia, and I think we'll touch on it. But yeah, she died in a fire last year.
Before you give the game away, before your passion of cars, just to give a bit of context to the viewers, because not everybody that's watching this, might be car enthusiasts. So if we can go sort of right back to the very early days of yourself, in business and just sort of finding your feet, and then sort of work through to the journey to where we are sat here today.
Yeah, well, if you want to go right back to the beginning, I had that Countach, the Testarossa, the 959 Turbo on my wall as a kid. I had the Matchbox cars and still got boxes of my Matchbox cars. And I look back now and I kind of don't unbox anything if I buy a Hot Wheels or anything now, but I've got them all unboxed. We used to play with them, and I've still got all of those. And at that time, about 6, 7, 8 years old, my granddad, Nono, would take me to mini racing with my uncle Angelo and my cousin Bert. So cousin Bert's a few years older than me. He's been one of my chief marshals with Petrolheadonism events and with our events at Sharnbrook since 2007 when we started. So that whole thing with the mini racing when I was young, going along, putting my work overalls on, not really getting my hands dirty. I didn't ever really do any work on the cars, but I was just there, part of the atmosphere. There was banger racing, there were mini racing, and I think that was the first kind of inception into that passion that drives me. Being amongst that, seeing it, and going to my uncle's workshop when they're prepping the cars, and he was AZ Mini Motors in Bedfordshire. Everybody knew him for his minis. And we're talking early 80s. So it's literally been there ever since. And obviously through that time, school, university, getting your first career job, etc. I went into finance straight after uni. And then when we built the hotel when I was 30, at that time I had a Vauxhall Vectra estate, and I had a VW Beetle, my wife's VW. We had 2 cars on the drive, and my passion was still cars and stuff. Loved seeing cars, would go to car shows, but never had that outlet to kind of do my own thing. And so built the hotel with the family, and we opened that end of 2006. In 2007 we hosted our first Italian car show. And the only reason we did that, and there's a lot of businesses doing that now and have started doing it over the last few years, was just diversify. When you've got a Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon where it's a bit quieter, diversify the business, bring some people in with their cars. It brings in people into the restaurant or the pubs or the bars, and they get to see the cars. The people who are bringing their cars along get to have lunch, network, and it just grew from there. But that was the first time really got to kind of put my own stamp on what I'm doing.
That's good. And you're obviously quite entrepreneurial to recognise the opportunity and the pivot within doing that. Where does that come from? Have you always been that way, Ciro?
So it goes back to being a kid, going to Finmere Market with my dad and selling rolled up rubbish bags. I think that was 10 in a roll for 5p, 10p back then, again, early 80s. We had a family delicatessen shop, so it was just the done thing back then. Your parents expected you to muck in and help. It doesn't matter if it was before school and I was 10 years old, or after school, putting all the fruit and veg back in because you'd have it outside on display, and then fill the shelves up and stuff like that. And it was just something that you did back then as a family, and it was a family business. Then 1987, we opened our first restaurant, Pizzeria Vesuvio in Clapham, Bedfordshire. And again, then, like, we lived upstairs, so it was just after school you'd be helping out, and I became a waiter when I was 11 years old, and I did that all the way through till we were there 87 to 2006. During that time, did my A levels, did university, but I'd be back weekends helping out. I'd come up with events. We did an Elvis tribute at the old restaurant, and then we started doing tribute nights. Then when we opened a hotel, that was my dad's dream to build this place. There was a need for a big venue like that. There are other hotels in Bedfordshire, but there was a need for something bespoke, purpose-built. And I think that hard work, call it entrepreneurial, but entrepreneurial has to be backed up with hard work, hours and graft. And that's instilled in me from an early age. And I like to think that, you know, my daughters kind of carry that as well, because they've been around me the way I've been, and it's great to see that spark in them as well.
Sure, because you mentioned that, you know, you did the whole university and the finance and that kind of thing. There tends to typically be two routes to success, doesn't there? One sort of like the academic route, university, you know, finding a career path and climbing the ladder that way. And then the other is a bit more sort of maverick and a bit more entrepreneurial.
Oh, maverick is cool. Maverick is cool because I say to kids now, like, you find your passion, you put yourself into that passion for 10 years, no matter how hard it gets during that 10 years. You've done it for 10 years. Everybody gets to know you, because the word of mouth is bigger than anything else. Everybody gets to know you for that, and everybody comes to you, because at some point in that 10 years, someone will say, do you know anyone for this? Oh, yeah, so-and-so. And that, you build your name over that 10 years. You build your social media, you build your following, you build your entrepreneurial spirit grows as well during that time, and you just come up with different ideas. But it's a minute in 10 years. That's the golden rule, 10 years.
Yeah, and sadly, a lot of people are looking for the instant gratification and the quick wins in today's world, and they don't want to sort of put that time in at the beginning. They're looking for the shortcuts, which, as we all know, never seem to work.
I'm kind of torn. So I've got my eldest daughter at the moment applying for unis, but she's also looking at apprenticeship degrees. And when I read some of these apprenticeship degrees, I was like blown away. I was like, I wish I'd done this. Now, I look back, and those years of my university were the years I found myself. I started believing in myself. I started self-loving, because you've got to have that to you know, be good out there and, you know, do well. What would I do now? I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, I would have done an apprenticeship degree. I get to work, get to earn money, I get to learn something. And with what she's looking at, it's amazing. I was like, I wish this was available when I was back then.
That's right.
But like, we could have left school when we were 16, when I was that age, and gone straight into doing something. People become plumbers, and I've got friends that are plumbers, got massive companies, driving around in their Lambo at the weekend, sort of thing. They've done really well for themselves.
Phil.
You know Phil, yeah.
I Phil.
Hi, Phil. We love you, Phil.
Yeah,
you know, so there's so many different routes.
Yeah.
But if you've got that spark, you've got that mentality to graft, and you can put other things to one side and focus, you'll make it. But it's not a quick thing. And, you know, it's sad to see this generation looking at that quick win on social media. And I'm not saying becoming a YouTuber won't happen, but you've got to be different, and you've got to have something about you that's different to everyone else. So you can't just copy what someone else has already done. And that's so important with any line of work.
I think it's valuable you saying that as well, with your passion and your interest being cars, because the sort of like automotive YouTube scene tends to be the route that everybody thinks that they're going to go out there and, you know, sort of make it big overnight.
This is really important, because for me, social media is huge. It's important. We started a YouTube channel about a year and a half ago, 2 years. It's growing slowly. Get to Petrolheadonism on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell button, please. It's growing slowly, but it's not that I want to be a YouTuber, and I'm not trying to be a YouTuber, but it's a place to document everything to another audience. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, we're all over those, and different levels of followers across each platform, but there's different users on those platforms. So for me, it's a shop window for what I do, to share what I do, whether it's an interview with Richard Rawlins or whether it's an interview with Matt Armstrong that we did recently put out. I've got so many friends in the automotive industry and I like to share that with people, but I've also got my own experience there. Plus we do events and we put our events on there as well. Again, it's a shop window. I don't want to be a YouTuber, but it's an avenue to show people what we're doing and showcase what we're doing.
The shop window is a great analogy for it, actually.
Yeah, you back in the day, you would have to literally have a shop window. My cousins have got an amazing framing business, but when their dad, my uncle, set it up, they had a good 11, 12 shops. They'd pay rent on all those shops, staff to be in all those shops, everything else. They've now just got a workshop and they sell online. They spend maybe a quarter of what they used to spend on rent on Google ads and online social media adverts, but they bring in so much more. And it's just the way things have changed, but it's the same business essentially. So we've now got these shop windows digitally online. So creating this is so important because it reaches another audience that maybe hadn't even heard of us at Petrolheadonism, and they might seek us out on their favourite platform.
For sure. And I think it's sort of worth touching on the amount of platforms that are out there and the amount of noise that you've got to cut through to be successful in any of them, really. With YouTube, slightly different in a sense that, you know, you've got the visual and the audio side of it. This is predominantly a podcast, but there's a video element to it. So without putting the video in with the audio, it might not have got picked up, it might not have got noticed. But, you know, hopefully there's some overspill through platforms like YouTube. You then start taking some of your customer base or some of your fan base, if you want to call it that, over to other platforms. TikTok tends to do well with the short form stuff, doesn't it? The real short, snappy clips.
Yeah, so short form at the moment is where it's at across all the platforms. Like what we've noticed on YouTube, it's kind of like a cheat code to put up a 15-second video. It depends on the size of your channel already, but they kind of like do nothing and then bang, and then they might garner some interest and go a little bit more. But it's a good way to grab subscribers. You obviously just don't want subscribers, you want people to hit that bell button. But whenever we're now out filming, and we were in LA recently and managed to kind of just happen to be at Jay Leno's garage when he was pulling out, and he
just happened to be there.
Just happened to be there. Honestly, we were on our way to the airport. I thought, let's just try this, just in case. Nobody we knew could get us in. Our friend Michael knows his assistant, and she didn't reply. And my friend Sean knows his mechanic, and he couldn't get us in. Jay has had a second accident recently coming off a bike, and so we just thought, well, let's just drive by. He pulls out his Corvette as we're pulling up. We jump out of the car. He gets out. We wave. He waves. He walks inside, opens the gates, goes, guys, I'll show you around. I was like, wow.
Amazing.
But even with that, like Josh, our videographer, with his phone upright, just filmed some little bits, some sound bites of Jay walking us around talking about his cars. And those then can be just put on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And it's so surprising to see sometimes that clip will do really well on YouTube, but nothing on TikTok. Right. And sometimes 600,000 views on a Valentino Balboni clip I did, which was just filmed on the spot, done, no production. And that went 600,000 views on Facebook, but not more than 2,000 on YouTube. It's strange how it works.
It's a lot of science.
Exactly.
Mm. And do you think that the whole social media thing as a whole is a benefit to society, or do you think that there's a hidden element? Because, you know, there's a lot of old people out there, or you know, people that aren't up to speed with modern technology, and they say, oh, you know, my kids are wasting their life away on YouTube, or it's bad for their mental health.
So this short form content we've just talked about has, and I saw it with TikTok about 2 years ago, and it's affected me as well. It really reduces your attention span. Like, can't sit through a movie in the living room without picking up your phone just to see if you've got any notifications first thing. But because you can watch so much in 2 hours and you're just flicking up, watch that, flick that, unreal when you've got a really good short form video that you put some production into and people are swiping out after 3 seconds. You get all the analytics now. You're like, why couldn't they just watch to the end? It's 11 seconds long.
Yeah, sure.
And it's just, I think social media is an amazing thing for society. but at the same time, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to us as well. And it's such a dichotomy between the two poles of the spectrum on that. The happy medium is where I think we need to evolve to at some point. How that's going to happen, I honestly don't know, because they want you consuming as much content as possible. I won't sit and watch a whole episode of Dragon's Den now, but I'm watching the TikToks on Dragon's Den because the clip that comes up that I may have seen a bit of once on TV, it comes up and I'll either watch it or I swipe it out. You know,
Sure.
I've seen it affect me, and especially when I'm around like the younger guys in our team, like Josh, we spend a lot of time together as my videographer. He can disappear, and I know I do it as well. But because I know I do it, I see him do it. It reminds me that I'm doing it, and I think we're all doing it. It's one of those where it's not a good thing, and this short format has been subtly drilled into us by the big tech companies that run social media. And what's the outcome? What is their end goal? I don't know.
No, but I've been doing quite a bit of research recently, and I watch a lot of Andrew Huberman stuff, if you've seen him, all around sort of like how our dopamine is being hijacked, and this instant gratification. It's social engineering at its best, really. But what's interesting with all of it is, whilst we're ultimately doing that subconsciously, our conscious mind is still seeking connection. It's still seeking physical interaction with other people. It's still seeking events such as petrolheadonism.
Yeah.
It's not quite enough, is it? It's not enough to survive on, is how I really want to put it. Mental health's obviously been quite a big thing for a number of years, but there's been quite a heavy focus on it, probably more so over the last, what would you say, 5 to 10 years perhaps?
Last 5 to 10 years has become more of a conversation, but it's still not fully there yet. But I think I had my own experience. It hit me, knocked me completely for 6, didn't expect it. And now looking back, I'd probably been suffering from stress and possibly depression for a number of years before I was diagnosed. Probably a good time to really go there. In October 2016, I was diagnosed with depression. Now, I've always been the most positive, optimistic, light in the room, go in and I'm just me, I'm my character. I said I found myself at uni and I just like bounced off everything, and I was just like full of ideas and pushing, and like whether I was doing my finance job during the day, I'd be at the restaurant at the weekends, in the evenings planning stuff. You know, I was always busy. Plus, I'd be playing football. You know, I had a really full life. And then when we opened the hotel, I was 30, and that was a massive, massive challenge. And I cherish challenges. I really want to go at it, and it's an opportunity for the family has created this business, and I want to take it to the next level. And I don't want to just sit back, silver spoon, and like kind of live off that. We really like put our hearts and souls into it. Looking back, I made mistakes. I made the business priority number 1, my 2 young daughters, and then the following 2 that followed within the 10 years that we were running the hotel. For the first 10, like they were there, they were at home, but I was barely ever at home, like 40-hour days.
Really hard balance, isn't it? And
it is a hard balance, and
struggle with that, to be honest.
It's major, and I think as men we hit a certain age, and for me it was that I say it was like literally a month after, 2 weeks after turning 40, I'm there getting diagnosed with depression. I had the most amazing 40th birthday, but what I didn't realise, I had people close to me working against me. I had toxic individuals that were constantly stopping me from making any moves forward, and I was always taking 3 steps back to get forward. It was just a nightmare, and I think that restriction, that feeling imprisoned, suffocated, is ultimately what turned my stress issues, which I was kind of a rolling cycle that I've been through for those first 10 years at the hotel, turned that into proper diagnosed depression. And I remember my mum saying, "How can you be suffering depression? You're the one. You're the face of the business. You run everything. You hold it all together. You literally do everything. How?" And I was like, "I don't know, but there's certain things that aren't right in my life, and I've got to address them." The first thing I did was put my wife and the kids to the top of the tree. Business came third. It was my wife and kids, because I feel like I could say it now, but I feel like I'd just put them to the back, and they were there, and they're amazing. We had some amazing times together, but it was always when I had a day off or whether we went on holiday. The rest of the time we're also busy in our lives. You know, they're growing up, nursery and stuff like that. And I really, really regret that. But then when I got diagnosed with depression, started seeing a therapist, had to go on medication, and I put the family to the top of the tree. Then came me, because you've got to look after yourself, and then came business. And that started affecting things around me. But if you look at the path I've been through from 40 to where I am now, 46, I'm now living my dream. I'm running Petrolheadonism. The hotel has been sold. We've been through a hell of a lot since then. So I've got no shame in saying that I'll see my therapist once, twice a month. And it's good to just kind of have a balance there. And nobody should be ashamed of having a therapist. I get that it's hard to get in with a therapist. It's hard to maybe pay for that. Or if you get on the NHS, you might have to wait for a while. But once you got in there, it's so invaluable. It's invaluable for many reasons, and I've had 3 different therapists in that 6-year time, and I've seen things from different points of view. My latest one, we're on CBT and putting some mechanisms in place to thwart the anxiety when that kicks in, or like when you have a panic attack and stuff. And it still happens. And I could, 2 days' time, I could have an anxiety attack, but it's trying to find the triggers and trying to manage those triggers now. So with this latest therapist, working through all the different mechanism triggers and managing it more, she did an amazing exercise, like what are the 10 things you're thankful for in life? And so number 1 is my family, my wife, my 4 daughters, my home, you know, financially comfortable. You know, we're not, and people will see what they see on social media. I had the Lambo, and I'm always around nice cars, and I've got a few classics and stuff like that, but we're not multi-millionaires in that sense at all. We're just comfortable. It's great. So number 8 out of 10 was actually being diagnosed with depression. I look back at that as one of the most positive experiences in my life. For the 2 years following that, I was all over the place. I was suicidal on occasion. But looking back now, I had to go through that journey to get to where I am now. And that is probably one of the most positive things that could have ever happened in my life, is being diagnosed with depression. When I say that to people, when I say that out loud, people are like, really? Wow. Now, when COVID hit, number 9 for me was COVID hitting. For me, we were just about to have the biggest, best, busiest year ever at the hotel. It's always grown year on year. And we had so much planned for that year. But all my car shows were planned for the Sharnbrook Hotel. Nowhere else. We were always going to be at the hotel. My mind hadn't even thought of doing events elsewhere. The hotel was our business. And with that, it diversifies the business, brings people in that may not have seen it before, keeps growing what we were doing. But it brought money into the Sharnbrook Hotel, that business. And when COVID hit, wow, I was lost. I was so completely lost. I sat in the cinema room, I watched all the Marvel movies in the correct order, and I just had time for myself for the first time. But I was truly lost, and I actually started questioning myself, will I ever find that energy again? Will we ever bring it back? Are we going to lose everything? Because you didn't know. You thought it was going to be a 2-week thing, not a 3-month thing.
Yeah, sure.
And now I look back, and COVID was one of the 9th most positive thing that happened to me in my life, because it made me question everything. It made me stop and have that time with the girls, with my wife, at home, walking the dogs, having that time to myself as well. So I had a lot of me time, I had a lot of time with the family. We'd do things together. We didn't do any TikTok dancing together. That's probably a good thing we didn't do that. But it made me reevaluate everything. And when the time came, 4th of July, we reopened, I did have that spark back. I did have the energy. We built a cinema screen in the gardens at the hotel. We started doing drive-in movies, and the first night we were on CNN, like global news, with supercars and American muscle, watching Cannon Run movie on the big screen, and then that set us off for the summer. You know, so number 9 out of 10, COVID was the most positive thing when I look back. But at the time, it was awful. It was so stressful, thinking you're going to lose not just the business, but your home, everything, because you just didn't know how long it was going to go on for. That went into COVID lockdown 2, end of October, and that's when that made me think, this is not where I want to be with hospitality anymore. And so the plans started coming in place for Petrolheadonism 2021, started booking venues in different places and working in collaborations with Tucked Automotive, one of the biggest collaborations I've got. We've got 4 events this year. And the plan behind Tucked was Tucked on the Green. That did really, really well. Tucked at the museum. And this year we've got 4 events with Tucked. But the collaborations with Adam C, Calvin's Car Diary. We've also got Auto Alex this year as well as putting the plans in motion for Petrolheadonism Live at Nebworth 2021. So all of this bad stuff with COVID actually spurned all this amazing positive stuff with Petrolheadonism and let me see a future without a hotel, but also my events going around the UK. So many people asked for us to do an event up north or down south, and so slowly we're building our geographic movement so we're further apart and we can include more of our community. And again, that was a major thing, is we were building a community this whole time before COVID, but since COVID kicked in and when we reopened, we were able to bring the community out, and the amount of people that thanked me for what it did for their mental health at that time was unreal. And that will always stay with me, whether it was messages, was people actually physically coming up to me and thanking me. And we did do, even January, February, March 2021, we did legally, we did little meets where people would come in, have a buffet, and they could bring their daily car. They didn't necessarily bring their show cars because they could have been sawn for the winter or whatever. And they could just get together and have that interaction. And you mentioned it, having that human interaction is so important. Yeah, we've got social media, but that doesn't give you the human interaction. And then the 10th most positive thing, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it, was 2021, I managed to buy my dream car, Lamborghini Aventador, doors up, V12. Didn't ever think I'd be able to buy one of those, let alone being able to customise it, and worked with my friend Sean Huber, bought the first Huber body kit to it. Marmite, people loved it, people hated it, but it was personalised to me and a further expression of my character, but also was like our jewel in the crown for Petrolheadonism. We did 10,000 miles in a year from getting that car to take it to shows, our own shows, and just be everywhere, seen everywhere. And that car went global in terms of social media, but also reports that Huber had put out there about his kit, and everybody knew about this car. So when the fire hit, in that moment, it was the most negative possible thing that could have happened to me at that time. But everything I'd been through, the depression, the therapy, the time I was on medication, everything I learned made that a positive experience. The positive experience came within an hour. The amount of positive messages I got from people just saying how much that car meant to them and how sad it was for them. There was barely one person that goes, oh yeah, totally deserves it, what an arsehole, rich kid, whatever. Nobody said anything like that. It was all an outpouring of love. It was from the community. It went absolutely viral. I filmed it, yeah. Some people are like, why is he filming it? At that point when I was filming it, I couldn't do anything else. The car was on fire. It was a fuel fire. Fire brigade on the way. My daughter's safe. She's standing behind me. I thought, I need to film this. Buzz filmed his GTR. I knew they actually helped with the insurance claim because then they got visual. But also the biggest thing for me was control the narrative. There's people driving past, filming it, taking pictures. I thought, I've got to get this out before rumours start getting out. You always get that, insurance job thing. Mate, that car was going to be with me for life. That car changed things for me. And in fact, the insurance company thanked me for filming it because they could see the intensity of the fire, where it was located, and exactly how it went down. And the fact that the fire guys put the fire out, they were there within 8 minutes, they were amazing. Had the roof off, the doors were up, and they gave the interior a full wash down to make sure the fire was out. I totally get why they did it. But then the car's not only fire damage, it's flood damage. So I kind of knew she weren't ever coming back. But that was in my top 10 of positive things in my life. That was number 10. And that sounds weird to say it. And when I started thinking about it, it was weird for me to even think it. But I got really emotional, not because of the fire. I got emotional because of the amount of love people showed and supported. And I'd say there's a couple of people that I expected a message from and I didn't get one, and that just shows more about them than me. But like 99.9% of the people that messaged me came out of all corners. There's probably still messages on my phone that I haven't been able to go through from back then. 10th of July 2022, never forget it. But as I say, I sat waiting for the recovery with the car smouldering over there, and just looking at my phone and all these messages and stuff and all the comments, papers, newspapers, and Lad Bible. Everybody picked up on it and shared it out. Lad Bible's savage. I didn't let them keep it up for too long because they kind of worded it in a way that the insurance company would be like, what do you mean it was the hottest day ever? And it wasn't because it was the hottest day ever. Yeah. It caught fire because of a fuel vapour issue, which is the EVAP system. But it just became the most positive thing. And yeah, I did buy another Lamborghini when the insurance paid out, and that wasn't too positive in a situation. It had an engine rattle after 250
Was
miles.
this the silver one?
The silvery blue one, yeah. And I just thought, no, I can't do this anymore. Sat down with my wife and I said, look, this is what's happening. They're offering to fix it, or I can have my money back. And she's like, look, with the fire, now with this, step away and just regroup. And I thought, actually, yeah. And at that time, we had the whole opportunity to do Wembley, and it had been fizzling away. I'd seen the venue 12 months earlier, and I was like, okay, I don't buy another supercar. I step back from supercars, get a refund, and put the money into Petrolheadonism, build it. This community I've got, this community that's grown so much in 2 years, has got to grow more. We want to make it a global community. People can just belong. They don't have to be a member. They can just belong. They can pay for tickets, come to the events. They can be a member if they want to be, and then they get a bit closer to the action and get invites, etc. But Petrolheadonism Underground in April, our season opener, that's now where I've invested the money and the time. And these events don't just happen. There's a lot of stress behind the scenes, a lot of people behind the scenes pulling it together. And I thrive on it because every day now I get to talk cars, play with cars, or organise events as I am, which brings everybody together. And I used to do this with the hotel. I did over 1,000 weddings in 16 years at the hotel. I just love bringing people together and seeing people having a good time. They've got a smile on their face. If they've got a smile on their face, I've got a smile on my face. And that's what we thrive on.
It seems like, with your history of finance and stuff as well, just touching on the business side of this, you've taken that money away from a liability, which, for all sense and purposes, was probably a personal investment to yourself, and put it into an asset in the sense of the brand, because you know in the long run that'll pay dividends and you might end up with two of the same car side by side off the back of it.
It could happen that way. I kind of know there's not much else out there in terms of Lambo Aventadors or doors up to V12 Lambos that can really create a scene when you turn up at an event. I've got a couple of ideas of cars that I would want to buy or have. I've got a lovely selection of classics, even my V8 American truck. People love it. And sometimes you have that part next to the Lambo and they go to the truck. So it activates different subcultures of petrolheadonism. And so I want to appeal. We're building a 73 Corolla for SEMA. That's a JDM car. You know, I want to have cars in the different scenes. And I think having cars in the different scenes and belonging to those scenes is so important for me because I do love all the subcultures rather than having everything in one car.
Sure.
Which, in some ways, like people are, not saying jealousy, but there's envy. And I don't want to create envy. I want the community just to feel like they belong. If I've got a classic Fiat 500 parked next to a Ferrari at a car show, I know those two owners are going to have something to talk about because ultimately we've got one shared passion and we're all driven by that passion. And I use the word driven because colloquially it's, you know, we're talking cars. But you're right. If it could pay dividends, so I'm not going into a big ticket car anytime this year. It's constantly balls on the line, especially with what I do with events, because you've got to put the event on and the money comes in when you're selling tickets. And if the event doesn't do as well as what it needs to do, you are balls on the line all the time. It's stressful, there's anxiety. And one of the big things I touched on last year was finally realising that a lot of my anxiety came from cash flow anxiety. And I just hope by even just saying that, just help somebody out there realise, oh shit, that's at the back of my mind that I'm constantly worried about.
Yeah,
like
sure.
How the hell, it's cash flow anxiety. It's manifested in so many different ways. It's manifested in stress, it's manifested in moods, it's manifested in people lashing out and being unable to control themselves. There's so many elements for a balanced mental health that come together. It's diet as well. I went through a procedure last year that I chose as a lifestyle choice. I don't want to be public about it because I don't want people thinking that I'm endorsing it and they should do it as well.
Sure.
But I've lost 4.5 stone. I eat clean now. I can't eat bad stuff. I can't eat deep fried food. I don't miss it, but I can't eat it because of the procedure I had. So because I eat clean, I barely ever have Red Bull because I can't do fizzy drinks too often because they bloat my stomach. Because of all that, I've got such a better balance. and I feel so much calmer, and I don't live off adrenaline. I used to do a car show weekend where we've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the prep, the build up, the Sunday, the show. And I used to eat maybe 4,000 or 5,000 calories. Like, I'd have something from the Burger Van, I'd have something from Spice Club, the Indian food guys. I would think I'm walking around all day, but I'd get home and crash, and my mood was all over the place. I'd have a Red Bull to wake me up, I'd have a coffee to keep me going, and like literally that was all over the place. How did that affect my mental health? Well, that anxiety, that panic, that stress was all augmented by eating clean, just eating clean. That would change your mental health 100%.
Yeah, it's the lifestyle of it that comes with it.
But if you've got financial anxiety, look at why you've got financial anxiety. If you've gone and bought yourself a BMW M4 and you can't afford the monthly payments, but you really wanted it, why do that to yourself? But as you say, people won't realise that I've been through 6 years of this journey, and it's not ending tomorrow. It's still ongoing. I've booked my therapist in again for 2 weeks' time. There'll be something that happens in the next 2 weeks that I need to break down and understand, because understanding it will help me. That I would get into a family argument with my wife. We don't argue often, but if I got into one, it'd be on me not walking away, because I'd keep chipping away. And sometimes now, I just think, let me just go check myself. Let me go just break this down in my head. What is going on here? And I realise, actually, no, you totally misunderstood the situation, and it's you. And you're creating a problem. But it's because of whatever triggers you've got. And mental health in a family environment affected so many people with COVID, and loads of relationships broke down. We were really lucky we were on the same page with everything that was going on COVID, whether you believe conspiracies or believe this or that, whatever. We were on the same page of what we believed, and that was so healthy for our relationship and the family environment that we had at home. And we were lucky we had a great time during COVID, having time. We've got a big garden, we can go for country walks, and it was just a reset for us.
Yeah, probably a well-deserved rest in a lot of ways.
Oh, amazing. You know what? One of the things I came up with, you would never take a week off work to just stay at home. You would never take 2 weeks off. You'd fly somewhere, go on holiday, and have a holiday somewhere. And then when you get back, the house is exactly as it was when you left it, but you never have that time at home. And that, again, was why it was such a positive experience to have that time at home for the first time in my life and just stop. I worked nearly every Friday and Saturday night of my life. We always had the restaurant, we always had the hotel.
In many ways, maybe caught in the rat race.
Of course you are, and you don't know it. And it had to literally brick wall that day, 22nd of March 2020, when we were told we have to close the hotel, the restaurant. We did Mother's Day that day as takeaway because we had 600-700 people booked in. It's going to be a really busy day, and you had to, because you had the wages to pay and you had to keep everyone going. We had 52 staff back then.
Wow.
It was crazy. And I look back and I never want that many staff. I don't want that responsibility ever again. I don't want it. I've got great contractors that work with us with the car shows. I've got Nathan who does all our PA and DJing for all the car shows. I've got people that build stages. Everybody gets paid, but they're all contracted in.
Yeah.
And they all want to be there, because guess what? They love cars and they love the atmosphere, what we bring to the car shows. And that's what I'm all about now. And I want everybody to earn off it and build this amazing ecosystem around me. And we've got like a travelling circus. If I wanted to get a venue in Surrey, the venue's happy with what we're doing, I can get the stage guy there, I can get the PA there, I can get the dyno guy there. And if they want a selection of street food people, I've got those all on tap as well. So it's just amazing bringing everybody together. And again, it comes back down to that shared passion. There was a moment at Petrolheadonism Live where we had Richard Rawlins in for a second year, and I was playing with the mechanism behind the event, and I've got a lot of friends that are first and foremost friends, but they've done really well what they do in the car world. So Tim, Shmi 150, was one of our top influencers at the event. He brought 8 cars on display. Amazing to have them there, because it's the first time he brought so many cars to one event. And it was then opening it up to other friends like Scott Rattarossa, Adam C., Helen Stanley. Sam Hard is my compere, and in his way, he's really well known over the world. He's got 10 million plus views on VinWiki, and he introduced me to Ed Bolin in America, a huge YouTuber out there. It's a global thing that we tell stories, sit in a chair, tell car stories. He introduced me to Freddie. Freddie came over for Petrolheadonism Live at Nebworth. Rob Pitts came over. Now, as I sit here right now, most people won't know who Rob Pitts is, but he's already filmed Tex-Mex Muscle, and that's going to be going on Netflix very soon. And he's going to be back this September, but he was there last year. All these people are selfless and love what they do and are passionate about what they do. Shmi is one of the hardest working YouTubers in the world. And if I tell you, I assumed he had someone editing his videos and putting them out every day. He's doing it all himself. And he's putting out pretty much, I think he's an average of one video per day.
Wow.
For however many years. He's relentless and he's an inspiration to me. And all of these guys, like Matt Armstrong, building the cars on his driveway with kitchen utensils or whatever he could find, to now rebuilding the Lamborghini Murcielago, which is a dream car for him, but also it's a dream to see that car. And I've been around the car and I've watched every episode. To have these people as friends, but then to bring them together at the event and then see them all networking. There was one moment, and there's a photo of Matt sat next to Freddie, sat next to Scott, with Sam, with Adam C. I've taken the photo, and these guys are all looking at a screen. There's a load of pizza boxes there, which is great because of my pizza history. And that moment there, I was like, I brought these people together. And it was interesting. I'm not saying it's because of me, but hearing Shmi say that, I don't know. I'm feet are firmly on the ground. I'm quite humble and I don't go shouting about it. But when Matt put up on his story that this is GT3, paint sample, very special car, came up a co-part in America, I think he put up in his story, how can I get this? So I WhatsApped him, I was like, speak to Freddie. He goes, good shout. So next thing, him and Freddie are talking. Next thing, he's bought it. Now, way before this, me, Sam Hard and Scoot, sponsored by EBC Brakes, one of our big partners for the last 5-6 years. Again, how me and the CEO have become really close friends. They're an amazing global brand that we work with. We've been to SEMA with them twice. We're going with them again this year. EBC Brakes sponsored our trip to America, and we booked to go Florida, Atlanta and LA. But first stop in Florida was to go see Freddie. This is before Matt's bought the car. Then it works out that the day we land, Matt's still there because he's been there for 2-3 weeks to work on his GT3. So then in the workshop, there's Freddie, there's me, there's Sam Hard, there's Scott Rattarossa, who's down the road at Sam Cracks, another YouTuber friend of his. And we're all together in this space. And it's like, how the hell has this happened? How has this timeline configured everything around us to happen like this? And it's like you manifest things and they just happen, but you make them happen. It's that positivity. It's that, I won't use the word luck. It's just making things happen. Waking up in the morning every day, pushing, making things happen. I could have pulled that trip to America because it was coming at a time when I've got Wembley 2.5 months to go and so much to do still. And I'm not going to sleep till after Wembley now. But you make things happen, and that happened, and it was an amazing moment. And to hear Tim, we missed Tim by 2 days. That would have been phenomenal to have Tim there as well. But that came together at Petrolheadonism Live. Yeah, really proud of that.
Do you think prior to your diagnosis and your understanding of depression and the impact it's had on you and your therapy and whatnot, you would have made the same call, or do you think you would have pulled the trip because you'd have been worrying about Wembley?
If I hadn't been through what I've been through, I wouldn't be in a position that I'm doing Wembley or Nebworth or what I'm doing right now. I think everything has worked in a way to make me who I am today, that went to Japan in January, and even just before going to Japan for a week, which was phenomenal, being a guest of Liberty Walk and being there with Auto Finesse, again, 2 global brands, and they're my friends. I could have pulled that trip before because I think of what am I doing out there, and I did have an anxiety attack in Japan, and I'm happy to talk about that.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
We were selling the hotel, supposed to exchange before I went out there, didn't exchange. Literally, I woke up on a Saturday morning, which would have been the second day of Tokyo Auto Salon, and we were really looking forward to getting there, doing some shorts, doing some media content and stuff like that, seeing everything. But I think for the first time ever, I was so far away from home. I travel all the time. I don't get homesick. I message my therapist saying I've woken up, I'm shaking, I can't sleep, I'm on the verge of tears all the time. I did actually cry, but Scoot was in the other bed, so I wasn't like open and loud with it, but I was just, in a weird place, and that hadn't happened to me. I knew as it was happening, it was an anxiety attack, and I was trying all my mechanisms to counteract it, and I thought, no, I've got to sleep this one out, I've got to sleep this one out. But at the same time, I know it's going to be a 48-hour period for me to get over this, and that's Saturday and Sunday, 48 hours. That's auto salon, and that's the whole reason I'm there for it. Spoke to my wife, because you've got to talk to somebody. While you're going through it, you've got to talk to somebody. So messaged a couple of friends. I called Sam Hard. I called another friend of mine here. I spoke to my wife just to get myself out of this negative thinking, because when you're having that moment, the negative thoughts are just coming in from all directions. I'm facing financial doom in every single element of life, whether it's the hotel not selling and it falling through, and how the hell we're going to keep that going for another couple of months till we find another buyer and all that. How the hell am I going to finance Wembley? How the hell am I going to finance that build for SEMA? How I've just lost a load of money on the Datsun 240Z project. It was all these things just hitting me from all directions. And then when all those negative thoughts, you start questioning your relationship with your wife, which has got, there's no question there, but I start questioning that, and then relationships with other people, and then you start getting paranoid, and it's like, oh, I've got to stop this, got to stop this. And as I say, I've built the mechanisms to try counteract it. Sometimes I just need to sleep it off. I did get back into auto salon that afternoon, 3:00. Wasn't a great day, but I got through it. I kind of tried to ignore it. Sunday, woke up a little bit better, and by about 3:00 that Sunday afternoon, I was back on it. My mind was clear. I had no more brain fog. I was like focused, and I had these amazing ideas for Wembley that are now in motion with our influencers, Auto Finesse, all these brands that are coming together to support me and support our community. It just keeps building, and the relationships get stronger. But going back to that anxiety attack, it took me a month. And when I sat in the chair with my therapist, she was like, what triggered it? And in that moment, I realised what triggered it. And it was the Friday night, we were at the Daikoku parking place. Me and Scoop been walking around filming some content. We'd been to get a coffee, we'd been to get some food. Been walking around for a good hour and a half, and I put my hand in my pocket and the zip was undone. And we'd just gone to pick up the hire car, so I'd had all my ID with me. My passport wasn't in my pocket. And in that moment, everything, it triggered homesickness, which I'd never had before. How the hell was I going to get home? Where the hell is my passport? Where have I dropped it? Did laps at the car park. Josh said, let's get back to the car. Unfortunately, it had fallen out and it's down the side next to the gear lever.
Sorry, it was the fear of what could have happened.
It was the fear, and that was the actual trigger. So I didn't realise it at the time, but that shock must have kicked into my body, my mental health and everything else overnight. When I woke up, I was shaking, shivering, cold, hot, everything. And that was the actual trigger of the anxiety attack.
Well, it's been said to me before now that anxiety can only live in the past or the future, but it can't live in the present. It's either the pain and memory of what's happened, the fear of what might happen, but if you put yourself back in the present, it's a safe space.
Yeah. And that triggered all the cash flow anxiety.
Yeah. Which
and
again
everything
is
else.
Future stuff that hasn't happened yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how it gets you.
Wow. I hadn't had one for a good year, and it could happen any time. And it doesn't matter where people are on their mental health journey. And I've got some people that are close to me that are in the darkest place right now, and I do what I can. But you also can't do too much. You don't want to do too little, but you've got to just support where you can. And again, talking is the most important thing I recommend for anybody, and no matter how hard it is to talk. And for me to open up about this, first and foremost to my wife, was so difficult because it stripped me back as a man. I was laid bare. I felt weak. I felt like I'd let her down. I let my kids down, let down everybody, because the man is the man of the house and all that bullshit.
But that's all very much an ego that we create for ourselves, isn't it? It's not the reality that we all live in.
It comes down hereditary as well. It comes down through generations. You know, my background is Italian, and the Italian man of the house, pride, all that. And I remember speaking to her the first time and breaking down, and she'd seen it get to where it got, and that moment literally was the biggest hurdle to fight this and beat it. And I'll say beat it, it's still an ongoing journey.
Well, sincerely, I thank you for your honesty with it all, and I'm sure, you know, there'd be a lot of people that are watching this that are drawing, you know, value from this.
I hope so, because that's why I want to be open about it. And
there will
I
be.
sometimes put a post out on my Facebook. I've got a lot of personal friends on Facebook, family members, but also a lot of people that I met in the car world are on there. And I'll put out a very personal post about mental health, and I might get a comment from someone like, "Why would you share this?" And my reason for sharing, I sometimes put at the bottom, if this helps one person
Yeah.
realise what they're
That's
going
right.
through, if it makes one person speak to their wife, or it helps one person understand why they're taking the medication and what the journey is about, if it just helps one person, then it's been worth making this post and laying myself bare to them. And do you know what? The amount of times I get 10 to 15, 20, maybe more messages across various formats to say, I didn't realise that, thank you for being so open and honest, because that's what I'm going through, or I've been through that and I can relate. And I relate to others. I relate to some of your journey. I relate to some of the influencers, what they go through, and it's by relating that you realise you're not alone. And by understanding you're not alone, you're already making progress.
For sure. And it's really, really sad. Like some of the research that I've looked into, negativity is more shared across social media than positivity, statistically.
You put up a video of
It's horrendous.
someone crashing their Lambo, that'll get more views of somebody picking up their Lambo.
Yeah.
There's that positive moment of them picking up their Lambo. They've worked their arse off to do that and get that car. It's so positive. But if you've got video of him crashing his Lambo, that'll get more views. And that's exactly what you just said.
It's the same with the whole clickbait thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
People, putting clickbait out there to get sort of like views and stuff. It's bizarre how it's got to this, really.
It is, and we're guilty of it as well. We want views. We need to grow our channel. We need to grow.
Sure.
And if that video of shared a clip of the Russian guy crushing a Urus yesterday. Now, whatever's behind that,
my God,
whatever's behind that, whether the Urus has actually had bad history or whatever, people are saying, so it wasn't, a good car and like crushing it really didn't cost him much, or whether he's done it because of the views that he gets. It's whistling diesel wrecks his cars, but he makes so much money off the back of the YouTube views and stuff like that don't care. There's some comments on there. People gave us a bit of stick for sharing that. No, I don't condone smashing up a Urus, but it got views. It might maybe reach 10% of an audience that didn't even know we existed. And if 10% of that 10% follow us, then that's great, because it's growing our network. And if one of those people come to my event this year, any of the events, it's great, because it gets them in our community. But I ultimately always want to share a positive message, and I do share when people pick up their new car or at our events. I've got a friend of mine that picked up a 765 LT Spider, and he whispered in my ear yesterday, he goes, I'm going to go pick up an STO. And I just looked down and go, I love you. That is awesome that you're doing so well, because he brings the cars to the events and shares them with people.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's pretty special what you've created in many, many ways. And it is so much more than cars. You're a very difficult person to research. I'm fortunate that we've got some mutual friends, and I could find some bits and pieces out. And obviously we've met before, and I've been to some of your events and that. But you're a very difficult person to research, because it's almost like you're hidden away in the darkness and in the background of the car scene. But people just have no idea of how much of that car scene is around or connected because of you. Right. And I think, prior to speaking to you, my conclusion on that was based around, some of the conversations we've had around sort of like mental health and stuff like that. I thought maybe it's a self-esteem thing, perhaps. Maybe, you're quite humble in a lot of ways, and you kind of keep yourself in the distance for that reason, perhaps. But actually, I think when you get into deep conversation, it comes across quite clear what the reason for that is. You're a grafter. You are a real grafter. You take no time off for a bit of flattery or recognition, because you're constantly chasing the next thing. You're constantly going for the next objective in the plan. Do you ever have a day off? Mentally.
Yeah, so that's been the big change now, with the hotel gone, sold. It's been gone about 3 weeks, handed the keys over about 3 weeks ago. And 2.5 weeks later, I went to bed and I just put my alarm on my phone. I've been up since I got back from America every morning, like 5, 6, 6:30, because I've got somewhere to be by 8, 9 o'clock, wherever it could be in the UK, to do stuff ready for this year's events. And I sat there and I thought, oh, the hotel. And I would always go through this thought process. Who's the night porter? Who have we got in tonight? Who's in the morning? Are they going to be in the morning? Like receptionists and all these thoughts. And then what have we got coming up? And I was like, hold on a minute, I haven't got that anymore. For the first time in my life, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, other than when I've got events, I'm free. I can go out for dinner with my wife. I can go visit friends. I can just be spontaneous and say to a mate, should we go get pizza tonight? And go out. And I did that last Thursday with a friend, and it was so good. He was just blown away. He was like, I'm free. And the hotel being gone has given me freedom in a whole new way. Do I have time off? Do I have a day off? Yeah, I do. Sometimes I just get to the point where it's just too much, because you were here setting up and my phone was non-stop.
Yeah,
it's
literally
on silent over there.
Yeah, I'll try to think how many missed calls there is.
Missed calls, WhatsApps, telegrams, everything. There's so many avenues now that you need to check, and I'll spend about an hour checking everything. But I do like to keep myself busy. I don't want to be back to those times in COVID where you'd wake up and there's nothing you can actually do. I just want to take every moment I can. I think humility plays a big part in my life, and I think depression humbled me in a lot of ways. I had a different energy in my 20s, and I had a different energy in my 30s, and my 40s have been consumed by this journey. But like I said, a lot of it, I look back and it's all positive. Grafting is what I thrive on. The pressure is what we thrive on, but then there's a fine line where the thriving on pressure becomes stress, and the stress is bad. But I had a dream when I was about 35 that one day I'd work solely in the automotive world, and I didn't know what that looked like. I remember saying it out loud to my wife, by the time I'm 50, I just want to be working with cars, in cars, doing cars. And at that time, if you told me I'd be doing car shows around the UK, working in partnership with the British Motor Show, working in partnership with the British Motor Museum, like national treasures in the automotive world.
It can't look a lot better
which
than
links
this, can
to all these other amazing partnerships I have, friendships globally. I would have told you you're an idiot. I would not have believed that. And now to be 46 and on my way to that dream by the time I'm 50, I've never been able to be that guy that can take an engine apart or change my brakes. I've just not been that guy. I'm finding I've got the time now to be able to do that on some of my cars. But I'll go to EBC's head office and we'll do it together and film a little video of it.
Yeah.
But coming back to humility, I think it's one of the most credible characteristics anybody can have. And unfortunately, there are few people out there that have made it big, done really well, but they've got no humility. And it's
the battle with the ego all the time.
Exactly. And I've got an ego. We all have. We have to have it.
Yeah.
But I will admit I'm wrong if I'm wrong, and I won't get into an argument unnecessarily. And the collaborations I've got, I work with so many different people, and they've all got their mental health issues, or they've all got their own goals, and they've all got their own path. And so it's taught me to be more tolerant and understand people's situations a lot more. And that's made me a lot calmer as well. So I've changed in that way. But I don't want to sit here and blow my own trumpet. I want people to see what I've achieved by doing what I do. And I'll go back to the first years of running the hotel and having the hotel. We opened it. We had a restaurant reputation. We never had a hotel reputation. So we built this place. It's new. The Swan Hotel in Bedford is a 4-star hotel. And I set my sights. I want to be in competition with them. I want them to see me as a competitor. We're nobody right now. I remember 3 years into the hotel being open, I'd taken a lot of functions over to the hotel, like Masonic Lodge dinners, charity functions, the Oakley Hunt dinner. I'd taken them from various other businesses around Bedford, and I'd taken them there because everybody wanted a new venue. I'd taken loads of weddings that people wanted a new venue. And one of our lads, who was 15 at the time, Liam, he was studying at school, hospitality. It was one of his courses. And he went to the Swan Hotel for a show round and like to talk and get some, information and like learning education from the general manager there. And Liam's question, I had no idea about this, was who's your biggest competitor? And the answer was the Sharnbrook Hotel.
Brilliant.
And when he told me that made me feel so good. But I hadn't been out there shouting about it. We were just doing what we were doing. And I think that's so important for anybody out there. You got to stay in your own lane, focus on yourself, do what you're doing, cajole, bring together your vision of what you do. I started doing tribute nights where we'd have ABBA come in as a tribute band, and
I suppose somebody's got to.
you had to do what was popular.
Yeah, sure.
So, and we do it with a 2-course Italian buffet because we were famous for our pizzas, pasta, and everything we do. A year later, the Swan Hotel, and it doesn't bother me at all. But they're doing a tribute night with an ABBA act and with an Italian buffet, and it was at the point of it being an Italian buffet, which literally a carbon copy of what we were doing.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll take that, thank you. I'll take that.
Imitation,
as a
biggest form of flattery.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
That was perfect. And I was like, it's cool. I've proved it works for us. Everybody around the world can do it and let it work for them. But I was the first one to do it. And I was the first one to do it in a lot of ways with the car shows as well. And when Caffeine and Machine came up, I thought that was amazing. I've been doing events at the hotel. I couldn't ever make the hotel what Caffeine Machine is because we did have other avenues of income through the conferences, the weddings, the birthday parties, the restaurant, the hotel, everything like that. But when Caffeine and Machine opened up, I was like, that's impressive. I was very impressed. I went there, been there a few times. I work with the team now. We take events there.
Yeah, it's nice. Heavy on the merchandise.
Oh, the merchandise is unreal.
Yeah.
It's so good quality as well. My American mate Gannon came over and he bought one of the hoodies, and when he came in wearing it, I was like, wow, the quality is there.
Yeah.
You see where you're spending the money. Their marketing is amazing. And now around the UK, and I'm not saying it's come from the Sharnbrook Hotel at all, but places like Caffeine and Machine are popping up everywhere where they're petrol head friendly. And they're building their own little communities around them, and they're cars and coffees, and so many different iterations of cars and coffee. We do supercars and caffeine, and we just started that again at Soper's House, another new venue. Literally did that 2 days ago.
Yeah, just going to say,
absolutely amazing. Working in partnership with a venue is so important to me. I work with all our venues. We work in partnership with. There's some venues. 2021 coming out of COVID, we had Shuttleworth, we had Duxford and Toaster, and we didn't get to work with them again. And I just feel with them, they did what they did with us that year, but then as soon as they got back to being able to do what they used to do and have those revenues, they didn't need to work with us again, which is a shame, as there were good events, good venues, good numbers. But the venues that we're working with now, 2022, 2023, we are in partnership with them. It's got to be good for them, it's got to be good for us, and they've got to work getting people in safely, getting people out safely, and creating a really nice atmosphere when you're there.
I just want to touch on something, Ciro, what you just mentioned there, because my initial train of thought was, excuse the pun, did having the hotel throttle you in the sense that you would have been involved in the car scene much earlier on had you not have had the weight of the hotel around you? But then, as we're talking and it's unfolding, the penny's dropped. It's probably a bit late. Your experience of running a venue and events at the venue gives you a USP when you're approaching these other venues for these partnerships.
Major. Absolutely
major. That really is quite key and worth mentioning, because there's probably a lot of people that are watching this. They might be doing a job they don't enjoy right now, or, on a career path that they're not completely happy with, and they've got similar dreams and visions to go off and do something totally different. But it's not, and through personal experience this is as well, it's not until later on in life that you're doing something totally different that you find yourself drawing from the things that at the time you hated the most.
I draw experiences from everything I've done in my life. So whether it was being that 5-year-old kid on Finmere Market shouting bin bags, 10p for 10 or whatever it was, and now being on a megaphone or a microphone at an event, or being the compere, the host at a wedding on a microphone, welcoming the bride and groom, hyping everybody up. I did that at the car shows. If it hadn't been for the Sharnbrook Hotel, I wouldn't have put on that first car show in 2007, and they wouldn't have grown, and I wouldn't have built the relationships. And the relationships is one thing. I've got real life relationships with people in the car scene that I've built for 17 years, and those are the ones that are just proliferating and blooming constantly. But if it wasn't for the hotel, I wouldn't have the car shows, wouldn't have the experience I've had with the events. But if I hadn't had the finance role as a financial consultant for HSBC, Barnard Marcus, and there's another company, I don't want to mention it. But if I hadn't had that, I had to, when I worked for them, market myself with a global brand like HSBC, but on a local level. I learned so much from that helped me when we opened a hotel. Because the hotel wasn't just for the local people, the hotel's for everybody UK-wide as well as globally. When they're travelling, visiting, we had Unilever, Colworth Science Park around the corner for us. We were in the middle of nowhere, but we became a destination for so many people. And everything I'd learned in my financial days helped me then. And everything I learned then is helping me now. And I go into Soper's house, had a meeting with them 2 months ago. I know the owners, I've got to know the team, but I'm sitting on their side of the desk with them saying, this is what we experienced at the hotel. Yeah, I'm going to run the car show a bit, but if you're running the cafe, you're running the coffees, you're running the restaurant, this is what we want to promote. We want to get people into your restaurant. That's the whole reason for it, is to diversify the business. And maybe once every 6 months or once every 2 months, we'll do this event, and it just blows up on social media for them. And if 5 people see that and want to go there to take out one of their office spaces or go enjoy the food in the amazing restaurant they've got, that's what it's all for. But like you say, it is amazing now that I can go to venues, and I am different to any other venue organizer event organizer, because I will go in there and I, first and foremost, I want to work in partnership with that venue, understand what their parameters are, what they'll allow, what they won't allow, and that's then helping me shape the event. Because I'm looking for venues for different events, I know that I can take our bar festival to this venue, but it won't work at that venue. I know I can take Empire to this venue, but it won't work at these venues. And so my first conversation whenever I send an introduction to a new venue is, this is what I'm looking for, but what are your parameters? Tell me your rules, what your site rules, what you'll allow, what you won't allow. Where's the entrance, where's the exit? I would have visited that place on Google Earth before even making that first interaction with them, because it's so important to get the right venue for an event. So like you say, yeah, everything that I've done has got me to where I am now.
I'm intrigued to know where, I'm not going to say where you want it to go, because I think at this point it's more about where's it going to go. You're proven. I don't think you'll stop at anything until you achieve your objectives.
Petrolheadonism Underground is the next stop, but it's very much opening doors, and I don't know where those doors lead to. I wouldn't have been able to tell you a year ago that I'd be sat where I am now with what I've got ahead of me this year. And I'm not saying it's not planned. I'm not saying it's not part of a wider picture. It is, but everything that's happened in the last 2 years since coming out of the gates with COVID has blown me away. And that's why I want to keep my feet firmly on the ground. A lot of offers come in, a lot of opportunities come in. There's a lot of people that are opportunists that just want to jump on and ride it as well. I've got to be very careful because I've got to protect the brand.
Sure.
I want to do everything, and again, I've got to protect myself, because I'm that guy that wants to help everybody, wants to do everything, but then that's at detriment to me and my time and my mental health, because you're trying to please everybody. And I'm guilty for that in a lot of ways over the years. And like I say, I got to the point where I put my wife and the kids first and business second, and then me third now, because I've got myself into a good place. I pinch myself every day that I'm now following my dream, doing what I love. And if I can talk about cars, be with people that love cars, and host events that brings people together with cars, anything to do with cars, if I'm literally talking, speaking, thinking about cars all day, every day, that's my dream, and I'm living it right now. And I'm pinching myself because so excited what's happening this year. But it's organic growth. like our social media channels are organic growth. This is organic growth of the brand, and it's been exponentially huge for us in the last 2 years. So yeah, I'm excited.
Nothing could tempt you back into the hospitality industry?
No, never again. People have asked me to kind of have a cafe where we have petrolheadonism meets, and like, no, I just don't.
I was just thinking, if the Swan was to call you up for a bit of consultancy or something.
If I'm working with a venue like Soper's House and they want help on anything, like, I gladly, like, with my experiences, and even that with your experiences, you're not always doing everything 100% the right way, and it's great to see how people do things a different way, but to bring those ideas together and you have a new way, that's the winning combination.
Yeah, sure. The landscape's changing for everything in every industry, and I think the old way of doing things is going to be left behind very quickly.
Yeah.
No, agreed. Ciro, one of the things that I want to try and do with these podcasts and with everybody that I'm fortunate enough to interview is ask you to nominate 3 individuals that you feel you might like to see on a podcast like this.
You ask some good questions, and you get people to open up and go places where they might not be too comfortable about going and opening up. So first person I'd nominate is Sam Hard. Now, Sam Hard, people may only know of him through my events as my compere at Petrolheadonism Live, and then they might come across him having been a mechanic on a TV show. In America, he is huge. Like,
really?
Walking around SEMA with Sam Hard was unreal. Like, the people that knew him, and if they don't know him and he knows them, and he reminds them that he built a car in 2015 and it was a hot-rodded Rolls Royce, or in 2019 he drove his NAS Charger, which is a Charger, so Dominic Toretto's Charger, sitting on a NASCAR chassis, like it was car of the show at SEMA 2019. So if they don't know him, they know his car. But the most amazing thing is, we arrived at our LA beach house at 2 o'clock in the morning, pitch black, except for 15 police cars and 2 fire engines driving around. And we followed these police cars into the estate, lights on at 2 in the morning. We pull up onto the driveway of the beach house, and we get out, and a police car comes back around. Hey guys, you seen a collision, or did you see anything happen? And Sam responds, no man, we just followed you guys in. We didn't see anything. We just pulled up on the drive. And the guy goes, are you the British guy off Vinwiki? And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? It's dark. You can't see him. Just from his voice, he's had 10 million plus views on Vinwiki. A storyteller on Vinwiki with Ed Bolian. And I've told a few stories now as well. It's an amazing thing to do. This guy knew Sam's voice. And then the next day we walked into a Super Bowl party. And I said to Scoot, like, it'd be funny if this guy knew who Sam was as soon as we walk in. The owner of a house, powerful LA attorney, right? House up in the hills, all that. We walk in. It's Sam Hard from Vinwiki. I was like, get him on this podcast, Sam. You got to get on this in this chair.
You heard it, Sam. We're coming for you.
And we've had mental health chats, so he's a great guy to have on, and I'd like to see him on your channel for sure. Another 2 nominations. Do you know what? I would say Josh Scoot. Again, he's someone we've spoken to on our channel. He's the guy behind our channel. But for a kid to be so mature, the way he speaks about and appreciates his parents in this day and age blows me away. And I'll often pick up the phone to his dad and say he's so grounded. He loves what he does. A bit geeky in that he runs spreadsheets on chassis numbers of cars all over the world, but that's what he loves to do. And he's in that 10-year journey. He's along that path of that 10-year of finding himself, creating a name for himself. He's been on Vinwiki as well, telling stories. He's with me along my journey with Petrolheadonism, and he's had that mental health struggle as well, bullying and things like that.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Josh would be a good one. Also for you, maybe it's a younger audience.
Yeah, inspirational guy by all accounts, by the sounds of things.
He's 21. He's doing his thing. We're traveling the world. He'll go to Monaco, go to Dubai, as well as doing Tokyo and America with me. He's done America 4 times in the last year and a half alone, and he's building up those relationships as well.
Yeah, okay, definitely be interested in.
And I feel like I should nominate one of my good influencer friends, and just trying to think through. There's obvious ones, but I feel like if I nominate them, they should come through as well.
Well, listen, I've got big hopes and dreams for this podcast.
This guy is probably, he knows this. He's like a brother to me, and he is an inspiration to me, and he's had an amazing run of entrepreneurial brilliance, but I'd imagine it's tough behind the scenes as well. And I think you know him, so I'd say Calvin from Calvin's Car Diary.
Okay, we'll definitely reach out to Calvin.
Top
Ask
guy.
the
He's had a lot of amazing things happening, but they've been born out of bad things. With his latest couple of videos with the landlord kicking him out, and he's just turned that L into a W, and the new location is amazing, and he's buzzing.
You're nicking DMO's lyrics there and turning an L into a W.
Thing is, so we're hashtag on it, me and Galvin, hashtag on it, we're all over that, and DMO is active, and that's cool.
Yeah,
but I can't really use active without kind of bringing out my inner DMO, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
of course. Everyone's got it.
Love it. You know, even like D is a friend, and he's supported a lot of our events over the years. He was there for the last Sharnbrook event, which was organised in 24 hours. Literally got an invite to his invite-only event this morning. So it's amazing. Like, I don't see life as competition anymore.
No.
I
collaboration.
Collaborations, working together. Going back 5 years, there were people in my life then that was all about them, and it's that narcissism comes out, that ego comes out, and as I say, it wasn't collaborative. It was more toxic. Now we're in a world where I'll only work on collaborations and positivity and partnerships and working together with people. And like between me, the CEO of the British Motor Show, D with D-Max, and so many other event organisers, we're all on the same page. And it's a very lonely place as an event organiser, because only you know the anxiety that you have to live with when you organise an event. And even when you're organising car rallies, you've got those people on your car rally for that weekend or week. They're your responsibility. You've organised it. You won't rest until you know all of them have got home safely.
Sure.
Without incident. And again, even with a car show, with the last one at Sharnbrook, no tickets, completely free. We absolutely smashed it. Everybody that turned out gave it the best possible send-off ever. But I was on edge because it was sketchy. It was dark. I've never done a car show where it gets dark, and then it gets dark, and you've got people walking down the side of the paths where they're not dressed in high vises, but there's people leaving the event. And because it was all free, we didn't have everybody's details, so we didn't have like names and numbers and contact details for everybody in case something happened. So it was just sketchy. But when everybody left and got home safely, that's when I chilled and I knew we'd had a successful event. So yeah,
I'll talk to you about something off camera regarding that. I've had a brainwave.
Cool.